nearly 4 decades since the system of racial segregation termed apartheid became the official policy of South Africa. The current violent oppression of black protesters by government forces is creating increased international outrage.
Your Majesty.
It was kind of you to come. I won't keep you long. I was hoping we could briefly discuss South Africa.
Ma'am.
It is my fervent hope that Britain will join the other countries of the Commonwealth and impose sanctions on an apartheid regime that has no place in the modern world.
Let us be quite clear about this. Nothing useful can be achieved by sanctions.
Really? It was my understanding they would devastate the South African government.
Well, they would devastate us too. Trade between our two countries is worth £3 billion a year.
I thought we might look at it from the South African point of view.
I am, ma'am. South Africa is already a disinvestment economy.
But black South Africans want sanctions, so shouldn't we listen to them?
Black South Africans don't want to inherit a wasteland.
They will if they feel it is their wasteland. President Kaunda of Zambia would confirm as much.
It is not the business of a British Prime Minister to consult with unelected dictators.
But it is a sovereign's duty when they are part of the Commonwealth.
Yes, the Commonwealth.
Yes, the Commonwealth.
I recognize that for your family, the transition of this nation from empire to comparative supplicancy on the world stage must have come as a greater shock than to the rest of us. But I would argue that the Commonwealth is not the way to fill that gap. There are ways of Britain being great again, and that is through a revitalized economy, not through association with unreliable tribal leaders in eccentric costumes.
But isn't that all I am, Prime Minister? A tribal leader in eccentric costumes?
Certainly not. You're head of an evolved constitutional monarchy that stretches back to William the Conqueror. It's not comparing like with like.
Ah, now that's where we differ. You see, I consider myself to be exactly like them. To me, Ghana, Zambia, Malawi are all great sovereign nations with great histories. I am aware you probably don't share that view. To you, the Commonwealth is something of a distraction, a waste of time. But in many ways, I have given my life to it.
But we cannot let the values of the past distract us from the realities of the present, particularly where Britain's economic interests are concerned.
48 countries of the Commonwealth are now preparing a statement condemning the South African regime and recommending tougher sanctions. What I would like you to do is sign that statement.
If I didn't know better, that sounded very much like a directive.
Think of it as a question.
The jolly atmosphere at the opening of the Commonwealth Conference in Nassau, nicknamed the Chogham, fooled nobody.
No, 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 no.
She rejected any mention of proposals.
I'm determined to win this battle, Sonny. I don't often get into a fight, but when I do, I want to win.
You will, ma'am. Remember, you are not alone. It is 48 against 1. We are going back with another word.
Measures. No, no, no. No. Sorry.
A no to measures.
Yes, so we are going back with actions.
And should that fail?
We still have controls.
Yes, I'm beginning to see this is all about control.
No, no. No, 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 no. No, no. Definitely not. No. Yes, I think we can work with that.
Signals.
Yes, she agreed to signals. And among the signals she agreed to are actually several of the sanctions she would never have contemplated had they been called sanctions.
Oh, thank you, Michael. And congratulations.
Prime Minister,
Yes.
you have been forced to make significant concessions.
Not that I noticed.
You signed a document prepared by 48 countries who were in conflict with you.
Yes, I agreed to signals, but as you know, with one simple turn, a signal can soon point in an entirely different direction. Thank you.
That's what she said.
Yes, ma'am. Before walking off.
Really?
With violence escalating in South Africa, tensions between the United Kingdom and other nations of the Commonwealth are at breaking point. Mrs. Thatcher's refusal to act on sanctions is being blamed for the collapse of the Commonwealth.
Good meeting.
Great, thank you.
Hate to dampen the mood, but the Today newspaper has let us know they are now running a front-page story about the increasingly sour relations between Buckingham Palace and Downing Street, following the recent crisis at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting.
What is it with these people?
And that relations between the two women are in danger of completely breaking down.
But what if I'm not happy with the job she's been doing? What if on this occasion I'd be happy for people to know the displeasure was actually real? That I am personally concerned about her lack of compassion. You know how seriously I take my constitutional responsibility to remain silent, but each of us has our line in the sand. And if it were to become public knowledge that there had been an unprecedented rift between Sovereign and Prime Minister, would that really be so bad?
A constitutional crisis was on the verge of erupting this morning as the Sunday Times published details of a sensational rift between Buckingham Palace and Downing Street.
The African Queen at odds with number 10. It has been an eventful week for Buckingham Palace. Queen Elizabeth II, a well-intentioned, apolitical figurehead, has been dragged into a messy row over South Africa because of the stubbornness and insensitivity
Of her Prime Minister. Far from being a straightforward, uncomplicated countrywoman.
a late middle-aged grandmother who is most at ease when talking about dogs and horses.
She's shown that she's also an astute political infighter who is quite prepared to take on Downing Street.
When provoked.
Really? Your Majesty.
Prime Minister?
Uncaring, confrontational, and socially divisive. That's how these sources so close to the Queen describe me.
Prime Minister.
That I lack compassion, and that my government has done irretrievable damage to the country's social fabric. My responsibility for the time I have in office is to put sentimentality to one side and look after this country's interest with the perspective of a cold balance sheet. And while I greatly admire your sense of fairness and compassion for those less fortunate than us...
Do you, really?
My goal is to change this country from being dependent to self-reliant.
I have had to learn many difficult lessons as sovereign.
Britons are learning to look after number one, to get ahead, and only then, if they choose to look after their neighbor.
Those.
No one would remember the Good Samaritan if he only had good intentions. You see, he had money as well.
Perhaps the hardest is that I am obliged to support my prime ministers on any position they take, even yours, regarding sanctions against South Africa. My question is, given the lack of impact it has on your day-to-day political fortunes, yet how important it is to me, could you not have supported me just once? My fellow Commonwealth leaders, many of whom I consider to be friends, now feel that I have betrayed them on an issue most important to them. I was shocked by the way in which you were forced to leave office. And I wanted to offer my sympathy, not just as Queen to Prime Minister, but woman to woman. Throughout the time we worked together, people tended to focus on our many differences, which was lazy and misleading, I think, and overlooked the many things we actually do have in common. Our generation, our Christianity, our work ethic, our sense of duty, but above all, our devotion to this country that we both love. The Order of Merit is not awarded by some faceless committee. It comes at the personal discretion of the sovereign and is in recognition of exceptionally meritorious service. It is limited to just 24 recipients. No matter their background, what matters is your accomplishments. And nobody can deny that this is a very different country now to the one inherited by our first woman Prime Minister. But if you would allow me, Congratulations.